let's just be honest, Stranger Things 5 was a massive letdown, especially with Volume 2 and the ending. I think a lot of that is attributed because of Byler in particular, and I know a lot of people are going to reject the idea of Byler, but let's just get on the same page real quickly. The two characters of Mike Wheeler and Will Byers all started kind of in between Season 3 and Season 4, but the ship in itself kind of existed ever since the beginning of the series, probably. Byler would have made a massive difference in the ending and the general perception of what would be Stranger Things 5. Well, it did make a massive difference. I wanted to talk about the general dream and the dark side of what would be the perception of Byler in the, well, basically the alternate side of what we would have actually have gotten against what we did get. So,
friends? No thanks.
yes, there's people who would have rejected the ending because there's generally just homophobes. But besides that, the general ending would have made a much bigger difference than even the producers would have even realized. Not just the fan base, but the general cast as well. Like Maya, Noah, Finn, Millie, probably would say almost everybody on the cast would have been on board of this whole ship anyway. There was a video on TikTok, Will and Mike actually kissing on the radio tower, which got over 1 million likes. That would have been crazy if it actually ended up happening. It would have dragged a lot more viewers to actually want to watch the finale if that actually ended up happening. And it would have led to Mike and Will being a lot happier if they were both together. Even if 11 was not a part of the picture, which I wouldn't have been surprised if 11 had to somehow escape and just move on without Mike. The government would have still been after her anyway, which would have sucked. But I would have had the feeling that the two of Mike and Will would have still been happier if they were actually together. Like if they actually ended up being together in the actual series. But then it would have also have added on there where not only would have been one of the best slow burns in Netflix and probably just general TV in the 21st century, but then also one of the best queer representations if it actually had gone that way. Generations could look at this show and say it was actually an amazing ending, having these two characters actually end up together instead of the actual show just, we'll get to that in a second, let's not, yeah. Having such a love story that ranged even from the very beginning of Will having that somebody who actually genuinely cared for them, giving the painting off and then having to show their love to them, and so much more would have meant a lot more to the ending than if we just... Can you tell I'm dreading the idea of what would be the...
Why you gotta be so heartless?
That's not what we got. The dark side of what would be Byler, or the just rejection of Byler of what we got. Technically also the rejection of 11, but let's not talk about that. There was a lot of noise about Byler, not just from the fans, but also the cast as well. And one of the things that the Duffer brothers decided to say was, we have to block out the noise. The noise that would have been necessary for the series. Not only did you guys build up a love story for Will, that basically meant he was in love with Mike, and then proceeding to say, oh, we're just gonna throw this away in Volume 2 in the finale. Now take note, the Volume 1 had some perception of actually showing that this could have actually been the case. And even the point to where Mike finds out that Will is a sorcerer kind of showed that, huh? Does Mike not look like he's not in love?
The sorcerer! A real-life, honest-to-God sorcerer!
There are so many people who look at this frame of Mike looking at Will and saying, yeah, he's in love. Will just saved his life for Christ's sake. Do you not think that Mike would have at least had some form of something going on in there? Mike has cared for Will since Season 1. Like, actually been that person to be alongside him. Clearly the Duffer brothers thought that the entire idea of Byler was bullshit, or somewhat bullshit for the fact that they decided to build it up, but then proceed to throw it away by the second half of the season. And up to the epilogue where the two of them end up, well, I don't know, they don't say they're together, but then at the same time they, like, I made a video saying that they're canon. A relationship that was built so much on the two of them having this care where Will could talk to somebody, and then Mike was there to be able to show that he did care the entire time. Not even in the same relationship that Mike had with Eleven. Like, what does that say?
Yeah, but what if you want to join another party? Not possible.
Even the moment that Will says he was not gonna fall in love, and then proceeding to fall in love with Mike.
I don't think you're gonna think it's gross when you fall in love.
I'm not gonna fall in love.
Okay.
The epilogue trying to say he's not in love with Mike anymore, but then there's a clear indication he still is. But then they proceed to just throw that relationship away in the trash. There is so much perception of basically them not even knowing how to write a queer story. Just homophobia involved with this entire thing, when like there was a clear indication where they were gonna go with Byler. There was a clear indication the entire time, but then deciding to throw it away last minute because they felt like it wasn't important to the story or something like that, or whatever they were thinking. It led on to the dark path of what I would say the dark side of Byler was, or at least for how we got it. I would have loved to be able to actually get a story that actually meant a lot more to the characters of Will and Mike, or a spin-off or something, or just generally get something where it's the two characters instead of just pulling the two away from something that could have meant a lot more. Like, there's literally an image of like Netflix taking away the idea of bisexual Mike and then literally just holding him hostage. It sucks because we could have gotten something a lot more deeper, a lot more of something that could have meant a lot more representation for the future. But instead, we got something that basically was just a safe ending or so-and-so or something like that that just meant, that means bullshit. The dream was we had everything. A great kiss, a great love story, a show that we could look back at and say, this is a great show, one of the best slow burns and probably one of the best stories in the LGBTQ representation and that stuff. I don't know, a ending that to them feels like that they've known for 10 years. If this was the ending you guys thought of for 10 goddamn years and the final thing that you didn't think of while producing the entire thing, even up to current day, was not getting the two characters together.
This game is bullshit!
I agree.
Stupid goddamn waste of time! Stop!
I'm so done with Stranger Things, or at least for a while. I'm not planning on watching Tales of 85 because I don't think that's going to add anything new to the story. So I'm going to say thank you guys so much for watching this little video on Byler. It is probably my last Byler video, at least in a while. Comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys later when I talk about these two, probably. Starcatcher. Great story. If you guys want something else that's gonna basically cure your Byler doubts or the sadness of what Byler has brought to people because of the fact that they didn't make it canon, Starcatcher is a good story. Bye.